What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Poppy TV. I'm your host Poppy, and welcome to another episode where you see Okinawa through my eyes. So guys, it's another day, but have you noticed anything different? That's right, I got a new car.
Okay.
But there's a funny story behind that. So basically, this is another cautionary tale where you can learn from my mistakes. So basically, when I got to Okinawa the first time, I was low on funds. I had to spend an insane amount of money when I spent my ROM over here, because I had to, when I came from the States, I had to spend 14 days at a hotel in the airport in Haneda, which was an expensive hotel, and then I had to spend 14 more days in Okinawa, so a total of 28 days just sitting there doing nothing. So of course I'm low on funds. I got my job and I needed a car because Okinawa is totally different from mainland, where you have trains everywhere, you have subways and other means of public transportation that are abundant. Okinawa does have public transportation, they have a bus system, but as far as I know, there might be people that have lived here longer or that may be more familiar. As far as I know, the bus system is purely Japanese, and I have no idea how to get on there, but I'm pretty sure there are resources. I'll look into it and see if I can post it in the description below. So yeah, basically I get here, and from what I was told, there is not a lot of resources for civilians to get cars, because for those of you that don't know, usually as a military member, you have what you call a SOFA status. Which is pretty much an agreement between the Japanese government and the American military forces here, where you kind of have some sort of like quasi diplomatic status. So there's a lot of car dealerships that will make it easy for military members to get loans and whatnot to pay off to buy cars. From what I heard, maybe it was bad information, probably should have researched it more myself. The car dealership that I got my cars when I was in the military, BC Motors, they didn't offer loans to civilians. So, and at the time I really needed a car. I wasn't sure I was gonna get a loan, so I went on Buku, right? So Buku is kind of a well-known site in Okinawa among Americans and expats that live in Okinawa, where people sell stuff. It's like a website where people sell all sorts of stuff, right? And they also sell cars. So I'm there perusing through cars. I look for so long story short, I look for a car that's relatively cheap, has relative low mileage, good JCI and all that stuff. Remember I talked about that in my other video, JCI, Japanese compulsory insurance. It's pretty much a Japanese government mandated insurance that you must have with your car, and it lasts I think 2 years, and you gotta renew it every 2 years. So anyways, I get this car, right? The car that you always see me in, the yellow school bus yellow car, right? It was a K car, it was a decent car. So long story short, fast forward, I think it was 3 months into my first job here in Okinawa, and the raining season started to happen, right? Rainy season. I want to say that was in December, January time frame. So it was the first heavy rain that I experienced being back in Okinawa as a civilian, right? So I noticed in the back of my car, in the back seat on the driver's side, I noticed that the floor was wet, right? So at first it's like, why is my floorboards wet? Why is the floor wet, right? So I thought maybe, in my rush to get to work or whatnot, some water seeped in from the windows and got into my back seat of my car. So I was like, all right, I don't worry about it. I put some newspaper on it, thought it would dry out and whatnot. And then I noticed that it wouldn't go away. Like the water was there still. Like it was still damp, and I'm like,
what?
After I put the newspaper there, the next day, I think I had a hoodie in here. So my hoodie dropped on the ground in the back seat of the driver's side, and I noticed the hoodie was like drenched in water. Like I dumped a whole bunch of water on it, and I'm like, what is going on? Why is my hoodie so wet?
Wait a minute.
You know, not putting two and two together.
You stupid.
So after a while, the back seat of my driver's side, it dried up and whatnot. So I remember there was this big rainstorm. Like now we're getting heavy into the rainy season, right? January, February time frame. So I noticed that the back seat on the driver's side, you could actually see a puddle of water in the passenger side on the floor. And in addition to that, the left side of my back seat was also damp. The floorboards, right? They're pretty much the floor of the passenger side. So I was like, man, no, something is wrong, because I always make sure that my windows are up when it's raining and whatnot. So fast forward, a buddy of mine, when I think this was after I got my new job, one of my coworkers was like, I was like asking him, because I don't know anything about cars. So my coworker's like, maybe you have some damage that you can't see or whatnot. I looked in there, some of my coworkers looked in there, looked in the car, couldn't find anything, and they said, maybe there's some kind of hole or whatnot that's in there. And I noticed that like my car was still wet, still like all the time. Like anytime it rained, my car was still wet. It was still like the little carpeting, the upholstery in the bottom would always be like wet, and there's almost like some mold on my car and whatnot. So I would have to get like cleaning supplies and try and clean it up, try and put newspapers down and everything. And pretty much and after that, I was like, I can't take it anymore. So I went to a mechanic off base, and the mechanic took one look at it and was like, you have pretty bad rust damage. So, and it would cost pretty much, and I got this car and I got my old car, my yellow car, for like $1,500. And what he was saying was that, if we look into your car, we don't know how bad the rust damage is, and it could cost upwards of $2,000. And that's more than what I bought the car for. In addition to that, so the old car that I had, right, to go off on a tangent, the key that I had for the ignition was the wrong key. It wasn't matching. Even though the key was a Honda key, it wasn't the key for the particular Honda that I had. So I was pretty much wearing down the ignition system for my car until one day, like my car stopped turning, like the key was like stuck in the ignition, and I had to get it towed, and I had to pay $700 for a whole new ignition system, because I think there was only one on Island. So that's already $700 that I put into the car after getting it for 6 months. And then I find out about the rust damage, months later, after I finally got the chance to go to a mechanic. So long story short, apparently from what I heard from another coworker, that a lot of people on the island, what they do is that they buy cars off auction in mainland and they try to sell it here. So as long as the car passes the JCI, right? JCI, remember I was talking about Japanese compulsory insurance. So in a nutshell, what goes on with the JCI is that you pretty much have to have it inspected by the government of Japan, and they inspect everything from the body, the engine block, all sorts of things to make sure the car is, roadworthy, and then they give it a stamp of approval. So if someone, a dealer or a scalper or whatever you call them, they get a car off auction and they fix it up and they make sure it passes the JCI, they can sell it to, a sucker like me.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And then, they can get some money out of it. So I don't know if the person that I bought it off of knew it was damaged or not. They could have bought it to someone who sold it to him and whatnot. But long story short, be careful of who you buy your secondhand cars from. It might be a little bit tough for people who don't have SOFA status here. If you have a visa, I would say do your due diligence. Try to buy it from a dealer. But if you have SOFA status, it would be imperative for you to just buy it from a dealer, whether BC Motors or any other dealership. I got mine from Johnny's Cars. I got mine from Johnny's Used Cars. Pretty decent dealership. So yeah, don't be like me, don't rush and buy your car, because you really need a car in Okinawa. But at the same time, anything mechanical is you kind of have to take utmost care, because you're in Okinawa. It's a small island. You have all that salt water and all that salty, moist, humid air. It's not very good for a lot of mechanical things like aircraft or cars or bicycles or whatnot. So you got to be kind of careful to make sure you get a car that's decent, relatively new. If you get it from a dealership, you get like a warranty where you can kind of have continued service and maintenance and done on it and whatnot. Don't be like me and rush and buy it from someone then you don't know what it is. I mean, obviously you should do your due diligence when it comes into anything, but you know, I was in a rush to get my car so I could, you know, start my job and start getting money and start getting paid and whatnot, so I could make it to my job reliably. But even if, you know, you're in a rush to do certain things, I would say as much as possible, just buy your car from a dealership, so you don't have to worry about, you know, if this car has hidden damage, or if this guy's or if this person sold you a lemon and whatnot. So, but yeah, that's my cautionary tale. Don't be like me. Be smart. Be diligent. And when you get your automobiles in Okinawa, if you're new here, come in here for a job or whatnot. And yeah, that's all I have for today. Remember to stay blessed and stay tuned. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.